Hello, welcome to the Afrocentric Woman. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome and welcome back. Happy to have you. I I think I queued this particular stream up a while ago, but things got busy and I couldn't go live on this topic. But here I am today. This journey of understanding how narcissism manifests in women, um it took me a while to kind of like understand it, but I think there's a lot of particularities with women that I I don't know, wasn't picking up on them, and um I do have a blind spot for sure. Or at least I used to. I'm becoming more keen at recognizing the patterns, but for a while I was pretty had a pretty big blind spot towards cluster B tendencies with women. Um, but one thing in particular that I discovered recently is that narcissistic women have a hard time relating with peers. They have a hard time relating with women who should be peers, or even women who are more senior or more elder or more ranked or whatever, or just, because of life experience or wisdom or particular skill or expertise in a particular area, or peers in the sense of age, or peers in the sense of education, or peers in the sense of life experience. They have a really, really hard time relating with peers. I'm going to glean this not only from personal life, but I'm also gleaning this from public life, that I observe narcissistic women and sort of the company that they keep. They keep a lot of women who are um, not on their level. And whenever they try to interface with women who should be their peers, they always fall out with them. And when they fall out with these women, the women who are stick around are the women who pretty much worship them, or the women who are subjugated to them, are the women who see them as their, oh, well, you're the leader, the women who are in service to them, the women who, um, you know, lift them on some type of pedestal. But they are unable to maintain relationship with peers. And this is something that I'm observing, and something that I experienced myself, is that a narcissistic woman that I know just couldn't, like, you know, I needed to share something that was happening, and it just couldn't be this celebratory a situation about what I have going on, or things that I'm working out, um, things that are in the works, things that are going to be manifesting very soon. It was just kind of this educational class that I didn't really sign up for. It's like, that's not why I'm here. Criticizing something even before it's being created, um, derailing things down rabbit holes that have absolutely nothing to do with the project. Um, not recognizing sort of the growth in what's there today. Um, and I realized that this person just was really struggling to just understand that, like, I don't need help. I really don't need help in this area. And I don't think that I don't think they know how to relate to me if I don't need help. And I haven't needed help in a really long time. you know, I really have, not in those areas that you were supporting me. I don't really need support in that area anymore. I really don't. I really, really don't. And in all honesty, When it comes to many, many aspects of this work, I've actually surpassed this particular woman in many aspects, which is a good thing. I mean, you always want, your students to excel. You don't want, you don't want them to be failures or to be, in the same area that they were 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. You want them to get the lessons. You want them to be able to apply the lessons to their life and move forward. And you want them to surpass you. You want your kids to surpass you. You want your students to surpass you. Or at least you should, when you are really in this for genuine reasons and not to be worshiped, and not to be just paid attention to and adored and all of this. But when you're really in this space for the betterment of women, you should have an expectation that the women that are coming up, especially if you're investing time, energy, and resources into them, they should surpass you. Why not? You should have charted a way in front of you. Um oh, that was sweet. Sorry, one of my guys is texting me. But you should chart a way forward and make new ground and then pull them up behind you. So if you're pulling them up behind you and you've already charted a lot of territory, then it just makes sense that they're going to surpass you, probably. I mean, isn't that the whole point of this? But I realize that for many people, that's not the case. I noticed that these women with these cluster B tendencies, they love women in crises. They love women who are destitute, women who are in or who are not self-sufficient, women in chaos, women um who need to be who are basically like women who are not fulfilled from within, who need outside validation. A lot of it. Women who don't have a sense of self or who have a sense of right from wrong, a sense of why they're here on the earth, a sense of community, like women who are just like free flowing out in the world with like not a strong internal compass, a strong internal GPS guiding them as to where they go. Because when you interface with women like that, or in other words, in order to interface even with people who have their own strong convictions, who have a strong sense of self, to be able to do that, you have to have a sense of security within yourself because everyone has a personal mission and you have your personal mission, and sometimes they overlap. What someone's personal mission is and your personal mission, and you're able to tap into something larger to move the needle forward because it just overlaps, but it takes a mature, self-assured person to be able to interface with someone strong and self-assured. If you can only deal with broken, chaotic people, that you don't have the person who chooses to always interface with that particular demographic doesn't have a strong sense of self, they themselves. And that is a way of maintaining control over others because of the quality of the people that they choose to engage with. And any and every time that people like that are faced with people who are self-assured, who should be on the level of peer, they break down and they're not able to do it. They just can't. It's very interesting dynamic. Very, very interesting. The people who every single time something happens, they have like some excuse as to why the person, like, it's never their fault. When something doesn't work out, like, it's always that person's fault. And the word salads and twisting things around, it's it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. And one thing that I noticed about myself also is that I get amnesia a lot of times, um, when interfacing with people who I already know they're highly narcissistic. I already know that. And it's just like, well, what did I think I was going to get from that situation? Like, it doesn't, like, it, if you're ever looking for any type of emotional support, you're never going to get it from a source of a narcissistic person. You're not going to get it. So don't try. But sometimes I forget. Like, I'm just like living in my world, tra la la la, and I forget. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right." And then I'm reminded. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's not the place to go for that." And I have my little babies, I have like my projects that I hold near and dear to my heart. And I would never, like, I have been, I've had intellectual property stolen from me from narcissistic women, like in my real life. Um, I know I've learned through like, I've learned through experience to hold those types of things near and dear to me, because they will take your stuff. They will defame your name. They will say negative things about you. They will try to paint you in a certain light. And it is to be expected. Like, that's what they do. That's the MO. And one thing you'll notice, like, a lot of times, or at least I know from women, a lot of cluster B in my own personal life, a lot of them keep very young, naive friends around them. Like, they don't really have a lot of friends their own age. And again, that goes back to that control factor. They like to have people around them that are easy to manipulate, and like a constant audience and a constant, like, fandom, whether it be online or in real life, to kind of clap and cheer them on in whatever they're doing, right or wrong, and especially the wrong that they do. They like to keep that little audience of people to smile and clap and cheer them on, and these are oftentimes people who, for whatever reason, developmentally, age-wise, whatever the reason, are just easy to manipulate. They're a lot easier to manipulate. And one way to ensure getting kicked out of the fandom is to criticize them or to call them to task on anything that they do. It's very black and white. If you do not support 1000% in the wrong that they do, then you're a traitor. And the script will be flipped so quickly. So quickly. Before you can blink your eye, the switch will be flipped, and the beloved fan becomes the demon that they hate, because there's no gray area with them. And there's no, like, mutual respect and autonomy. It's just blindly support whatever I do, whether I'm wrong or right. Just blindly support me. I mean, it's good to be of service and help people, but you should have a desire to put people in a position to where they won't need you further. You know what I mean? Put them in a position where they're not dependent on you. Show them the tools within themselves to get where they need to go. That's the whole point. It should be the whole point of this. Not to create people who are dependent, but people who are self-sufficient in lending and contributing to their self-sufficiency, their ability to provide for themselves, whatever that may be. The validation, the self-esteem, life skills, those kinds of things. So that whatever seeds you're planting, they're going to blossom into, and they'll be the property of that person. They'll be there. They will own it. It's nothing that can be taken away. Because if you're getting like emotional roller coaster and camaraderie through drama and all of that, I mean, that can literally be taken away. You could be kicked out of the fandom. And then now what do you have? What do you have that you of value that you can use to improve your life when all the only value you were getting was the entertainment of the gossip and toxicity within the fandom? Well, how dare you say anything about the narcissistic woman? You're kicked out of the fandom. You're out the club. You're out. You're persona non grata. And where you pick up the pieces, you just go and tack on to another fandom, another harem, another uh cult of worship, worship of what is it, cult of worship of personality or whatever it is. But yes, this is something that I noticed. I mean, and if ever, I think if ever it's like a subtle thing to pick up on is women's inability to relate to their peers. You should be able to a quality woman should be able to relate to her peers and to her superiors too, especially in terms of eldership, women who are older, more mature, more life experience. A quality woman should be able to do that and maintain healthy relationships. Uh, a quality woman should be able to, um, a quality woman with like good solid foundation, good solid bones should be able to demonstrate respect to her peers and her contemporaries. She should be able to relate in a healthy manner to her contemporaries, to her peers, to people who are doing things similar to her, or maybe at a similar life stage, a little bit ahead or a little bit behind. That is a sign of a quality, well developed woman. And so the opposite of that is women who cannot relate to their peers, contemporaries, or superiors or elders. They just can't. They just can't get along. It's just fallout after fallout after fallout. Um, or if those women who are the peers are not able to relate to that person, like if they're constantly either being ostracized or um, disparaged, um, those kinds of things, or just even ignored, that's a sign that that person is not well developed and may be on the cluster B spectrum somewhere or another. Those skills are crucial. They're crucial for quality development, character development, being and notice how I said just being able to relate. I didn't say anything about being BFF. It just it's not about being best friends. It's not about being bosom buddies. It's not about that. It's just being able to demonstrate respect and relate. Those skills are critical. But anyway, drop down in the comments and let me know if you have observed any of this. Have you observed or had experience with um, trying to relate to a woman and like if you're not a student or or a fan, they just don't even know how to relate. They don't know how to relate to you. Do you have any experience with that personally, or have you observed that? I look forward to seeing your discussion down in the comments. Take care and we'll talk soon. Peace.